We appreciate every one of you watching. Drop a comment and tell us where you're tuning in from. Now let's get into it. It was never about the party. It never is. Not when your wife brushes past you like you're invisible, wearing that dress, the one that clings like a secret, and spritzing on a perfume she hasn't worn since your first date. Not when she stumbles over your question, "Who's going to be there?" As if honesty is suddenly too complicated. That night, I wasn't watching my wife Ava head to a gathering. I was watching her walk out of our marriage, not with a dramatic exit or bags in hand, but with a silence that cut deeper than any argument. "It's just a small get-together," she said without looking at me, her focus divided between her lipstick and her phone screen. "Is Jordan going to be there?" I asked, and there it was, the tremble, the flicker in her eye, the split-second pause that told me more than words ever could. She recovered fast, but not fast enough. After 6 years with her, I knew every flicker of hesitation, like a well-rehearsed melody. "He's part of the group," she said. And that was it, the truth behind the party. The man, she said, was history. The one who'd hung around the corners of our life, like a storm never quite spent. She left at 7:41. No kiss, no goodbye, just a click of heels echoing off the driveway and into the night. When her car disappeared down the street, I stood by the window, fork in hand, staring at the untouched dinner I'd made. She thought I'd stay rooted there, the loyal husband waiting for her to return. But that man, the one who excused the distance, the fake smiles, the sudden interest in working out that came with no fitness changes but with new lace hidden in the drawer, that man was done. I didn't lose it. I didn't beg. I didn't even text. I took a shower, cleaned up, and threw on a leather jacket I hadn't worn since before I traded freedom for responsibility. At 8 o'clock, I walked into Blackstone Lounge. The air was thick with liquor, low lights, and the kind of energy that tempts you to forget. I didn't come to chase anyone. I came to remember who I used to be. The bartender, Sophie, blinked twice when she saw me. "Tyler Hunt, is that really you?" I gave her a small smile. "You still know how to make that old-fashioned I used to like?" She slid it across the bar with a nod. The moment was quiet but electric. This wasn't about a drink. It was about reclaiming something. 30 minutes passed. My phone buzzed, a message from Ava. "Where are you?" I didn't reply, not because I was playing games, but because she didn't get to keep me on standby anymore. One man for the thrill, another for the stability. If she wanted Jordan, she could have him, and she could feel what it's like when a man who always stayed finally walks away. She sent that text just 40 minutes after leaving. Maybe Jordan didn't live up to the fantasy, or maybe she'd already realized what she was giving up. Either way, I left her on read. Sophie raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" "Just old memories trying to become new mistakes," I said, sipping my drink. But inside, I wasn't thinking about her anymore. I was thinking about the version of me who let this go on for too long, the one who buried suspicions under the label of trust. That version was gone. At 9:12, another message came in. "Are you home?" Home used to mean coffee in bed, her laughter echoing down the hallway. Now it was just the place she ran from. I typed one word, "busy." She didn't answer right away. Good. I wanted her to feel that emptiness. I wanted her to wonder. Sophie leaned forward again. "You sure you're okay?" "I will be," I said, and I meant it. I wasn't there yet, but I was on my way. I drained my glass, tipped well, and stepped back into the cool night. The air was crisp, sharp like truth. I drove nowhere in particular. Got gas I didn't need. Parked outside a diner that never closes. For once, I let time pass for me. When I got home, another message flashed on the screen. "Are you ignoring me?" I smiled. "No, just busy," I replied. She answered immediately this time. "Busy with what?" That question wasn't innocent. It carried weight, doubt, fear. She was imagining me with someone else. Maybe realizing that I'd stopped being the doormat. I didn't text back. I set the phone down, screamed first, and turned off the lights. It was 2:41 a.m. when I heard the front door creak open. Her footsteps were slower this time, hesitant. She hovered outside the bedroom. then a faint brushing of her nails against the door. "Tyler?" I didn't respond. She came in anyway, her silhouette outlined by moonlight, mascara smudge, lips raw, hair a mess. She looked uncertain, vulnerable. "I just got back," she said. "Can we talk?" I sat up calm, steady. No anger, no performance. "I'm busy," I said, her brows pulled together. "It's almost 3 o'clock in the morning." "Exactly." She stepped closer, arms folded. "Why are you being like this?" "Like what?" "Like you don't care anymore." And there it was. I got up, walked past her to the kitchen, poured myself some water, leaned on the counter. She followed me. "Tyler, please talk to me." I met her eyes. "You walked out, Ava, not just tonight, piece by piece for months. You left with every look that avoided mine, with every excuse, every half-truth. You thought I wouldn't notice or that I'd never leave." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. "You said it was just a party." I said, "But we both know that's not what you were looking for." "I didn't do anything. I didn't ask." She blinked, confused. "You think I need proof to believe what I already feel in my bones?" And in that silence, for the first time, she seemed to understand that this time, I wasn't the one trying to hold things together. I already had one foot out the door. He'd been gone so long, yet somehow he'd never really left her heart. She opened her mouth to explain, to twist things into something softer. But I raised a hand. "I don't need it," I said quietly. "I don't need anything from you anymore." Then I walked right past her. I heard her murmur my name behind me, barely above a whisper like the fading echo of a dying star. But I didn't look back. Not this time. This time I was the one walking away. By sunrise, Ava had already sent 4 texts. Nothing meaningful, just the usual performance of worry wrapped in vague words. "Are you okay? We should talk. Please answer. Tyler, this isn't like you." But that's where she was wrong. This was exactly like me. At least a version of me she used to wish for. The man who didn't accept scraps. The man who stood his ground. The man who didn't come in second to someone else's attention. Only now, that man no longer centered his life around her, and that terrified her. She had always counted on me to be the one who burned himself just to keep the cold house of our marriage warm. She never imagined I'd stop striking the match. I left the house before she woke up. No explanations, no apologies, no guilt. I drove to a gym she'd never heard of and started lifting weights again. Every rep felt like a small resurrection. Every bead of sweat washed away a piece of the man who used to beg for love, for attention, for the basic decency of being seen. When I got back, she was pacing in the kitchen, still wearing last night's dress. Her makeup was smudged and her hair was pulled up in a lazy knot that looked more like survival than style. She turned when she heard the door. "You left," she said, voice trembling between accusation and desperation. "I did," I said as I dropped my keys on the table. "You didn't even say anything. I didn't think you cared." She took a step toward me. "Don't do this." "Do what, Ava?" I asked, my tone level. "Treat you the way you've treated me." Her mouth opened like she wanted to argue, but no words came. I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. "You came home at nearly 3 a.m. smelling like his cologne. You don't get to play innocent now." She gasped, not because I was wrong, but because she didn't think I'd noticed. She still believed I was a passive, predictable placeholder she could keep around with half-truths and practice smiles. I turned toward the bedroom. "Tyler, please," she said behind me. "I didn't sleep with him." I stopped in the hallway, my back to her. That sentence, "I didn't sleep with him," it confirmed everything else. I smiled to myself, cold and calm. That's not a confession, Ava. That's damage control. She collapsed into one of the dining chairs. "We were just talking," she said weakly. "I don't care," I interrupted. "Not about what you did. Not about what you didn't. Not anymore." "Why are you acting like this?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because you taught me how." I didn't rage. I didn't accuse. I just distanced myself. And that's what she couldn't handle. Ava knew how to argue, how to cry on cue, how to charm her way out of tough spots. But indifference, that was foreign to her. I stopped asking where she was going. I stopped noticing the new underwear, the late-night showers, the mystery charges. I stopped reacting, and with nothing to run from, she had nowhere to run to. Then came the changes. I stopped wearing my wedding ring. I went out more. I returned to myself, to the man I was before her world became mine. I went to the gym. I went to dinners. And women noticed me, not because I was looking for attention, but because I simply existed. One of them was Emily, a civil engineer I sat next to at a conference I almost skipped. She was sharp, grounded, and unapologetically herself. We talked for hours, never flirted, never crossed any lines. But Ava noticed the shift. Of course she did. That night, when I walked through the door, she was already seated at the kitchen table, a full glass of wine untouched in front of her, like she'd been sitting there for hours rehearsing something. "You smell like vanilla and citrus," she said, not even looking at me. "That's called soap," I replied, tossing my keys on the counter. "Were you with someone?" I smirked. "Does it matter?" Her lips trembled. And finally, she felt it. That sick twist in the stomach, the gnawing knot of dread and realization. And it was just the beginning. While she tried to piece together the crumbling facade of our marriage, I was quietly assembling something else. Evidence. Not for revenge, for release. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I just gathered facts. Bank records, travel logs, credit card charges. Every girl's night without photos. Every receipt for dinners too expensive to be for one. Every ATM withdrawal from a city she said she hadn't been to. I didn't need her to confess. The truth was already mine. 3 weeks later, she was trying everything. Cooking my favorite meals again, wearing the perfume she knew I used to love, rewatching the old movies we once cuddled to, now alone at the far end of the couch. One night, she patted the cushion beside her. "Want to join me?" I looked at her for a long moment. "No," she blinked. "I have plans." "What kind of plans?" she asked, trying to sound casual. "I'm meeting someone." There was a pause. "Is there someone else?" she asked, her voice a ghost. I gave her a gentle smile. "Now you understand." The next morning, I left a folder on the kitchen table. Open. Deliberate. Inside, everything, screenshots, printouts, timelines, a blueprint of deception labeled and dated. I never brought it up. I didn't have to. I had the truth. And finally, I had peace. I didn't watch her read it. I just listened to the silence afterward. Thick, sharp, telling. She stood in the hallway like the folder in her hands was scorching her skin. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, voice breaking. "You just didn't care if you did," I replied, brushing past her. "You don't understand, Ty," she said, eyes pleading. "I was lonely. You're always so good, so steady." I stopped, turned, looked straight into her. "And that bored you." She didn't respond, but she didn't have to. Her silence gave me the answer. What Ava didn't realize was that I'd already gone to a lawyer. I had protected everything under my name, divided our assets fairly, and waived any right to alimony. I wasn't interested in revenge that left her penniless. I wanted the kind that would echo in her mind. She had love. She had loyalty. She had someone who would have walked through fire without hesitation. And she threw away for a moment of validation. So I left her everything. The house, the furniture, the life we built. I took nothing except the version of me she had spent years trying to dim. A month later, I moved into a small apartment. It had creaky floors and a faucet that never stopped dripping. But it was mine, and that was enough. The silence in that space wasn't hollow. It was peaceful. Oh, I began reading again. Started running in the early mornings. Laughed at the random texts Emily sent. She was becoming someone I looked forward to, not someone I leaned on for rescue, but someone who saw me as I was, as I am. Then one night Ava showed up. She stood in the rain, soaked through like something out of a movie. "Can we talk?" she asked. I looked at her, shivering, wet, desperate, and felt nothing. No rage, no longing, just stillness. "Why?" I asked. She swallowed, Because I miss you. I nodded. Do you miss me or the life you had when I was too blind to leave? She didn't answer. Didn't need to. Her silence spoke louder than any apology could. I closed the door softly. Didn't slam it. Didn't yell. Just closed it and stood there, listening. She lingered outside for 5 full minutes. I didn't move. Didn't peek through the peephole. Just stood still, listening to her quiet sobs, her shuffling feet, her hope that I might change my mind. But I didn't. Not because I was angry, but because I no longer needed her. When her footsteps finally disappeared, I let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. A breath years in the making. Years of silent drowning in a marriage that asked me to shrink, to smile through betrayal, to believe love could survive without honesty. The next morning, sunlight poured through my windows like truth. No chaos. No misplaced perfume on our sheets. Just peace. I made coffee slowly. Ava used to hate that, said it took too long. But now, I appreciated the slowness. I needed it. Life had always been a series of reactions. Now, I was living with intention. I sat on my tiny balcony, watching the city wake up. Strangers in a rush. Couples amid argument. Kids dragging backpacks across concrete. And I just watched, because I didn't have anywhere to be except with myself. A few days later, Ava texted, I understand now. I'm sorry. I hope someday you can forgive me. I read it, then deleted it. Not out of bitterness, but because some forgiveness doesn't need to be spoken. It just looks like moving on. Fully, completely, without needing the other person to witness it. Emily and I remain close. Not romantic. Not yet. We met for coffee. Went to a concert. She helped me hang shelves in my kitchen, because I'm awful with tools. She never asked about Ava. She didn't need to, because I wasn't dragging that weight around anymore. One evening, she said something that stayed with me. Sometimes we give the best of ourselves to the wrong people. The key is to not lose that part of you when they go. And I thought about that for the longest time. I believed Ava had broken me, but she hadn't. She just exposed how fragile I'd let myself become, how willing I was to lose pieces of myself just to keep the peace. Now I wasn't bitter, wasn't closed off. I was awake. Months passed. Seasons changed. Then I saw Ava again by accident in a grocery store aisle. She looked thinner, tired. Her eyes dropped the moment she saw me. But I walked over. Hey, I said. She turned, smiled faintly. It didn't reach her eyes. Hi, how are you? I'm good. I said, you look good. Thanks. A pause. Then she asked, do you ever miss us? I thought about it. Not to search for an answer, but to make sure I didn't offer one meant to wound. I miss who I thought we were. I said, but I don't miss who we actually were. She nodded. Her jaw trembled a little. I hope you're happy, Ty. I am, I told her, and I'm in it. No hugs, no tears. Just two people who once shared everything now sharing a brief, quiet moment in a grocery store. That night, I lit a candle. Not for romance, for closure. I sat on the floor of my apartment and looked around. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. Not because someone else filled the space, but because I did. Fully, honestly. No more hiding. No more pretending. I picked up an old photo of me. Before all of it. Before the compromises. Before the lies. Before I started trading parts of myself for the illusion of love. I placed it on the shelf and whispered, welcome back. Because the most powerful revenge isn't fury or destruction. It's peace. It's silence. It's becoming the person they never believed you'd have the strength to be. And living well in a life they never thought you'd create without them.